The fleet of the Zuron Empire drifted helplessly near Earth. Their mighty warships, once symbols of fear and power, now floated like silent shadows. Not a single cannon worked. Not a single engine responded. The Empire's most advanced ships had been turned into cold metal by a single warning from Earth. Admiral Korv stood at the command deck of his flagship, the Iron Vortex. His crew was busy trying to bring back control, but nothing worked. The screens flickered with strange glowing symbols that no one could understand. Every time the engineers tried to reset the system, the same message appeared again. Access denied. Korv clenched his fists. How is this possible? No race can break Zuron systems. These codes are beyond any known science. Commander Rill approached carefully. Admiral, we have tried every method. Even the backup controls are unresponsive. It is as if the ships themselves are being controlled by something invisible. Korv looked through the large glass window. Below them, Earth shone softly with blue oceans and green lands. It looked peaceful and calm, yet something about it made even the strongest soldier uneasy. It's that planet, he said slowly. They are doing this to us. They warned us not to approach, and now they are showing what happens when we ignore them. Suddenly, all lights in the ship turned bright white. A sound filled the room like a deep hum. Then, a holographic figure appeared in the center of the command deck. It was made of pure light, shaped like a human, but its face was hidden by a glowing mask. The entire crew froze in shock. The figure spoke in a calm, steady voice. You have entered forbidden space. This is your final warning. Turn back and never return. Korv's pride burned inside him. Who are you to order the Empire? Do you know who we are? We are the rulers of this galaxy. The figure did not move. Its voice remained calm. Your Empire rules only because others allow it. You have no power here. Leave while you still can. Korv stepped forward, anger in his eyes. We will not be threatened by illusions. You think your tricks can stop us? We will find a way to fight back. The hologram flickered once, then disappeared. The ship became silent again. But before anyone could speak, all screens across the fleet came to life. A map appeared showing the position of every Zuron ship. A red light circled around them. The voice returned. You have 10 minutes to decide. Leave or be removed. The crew looked at each other in disbelief. Commander Rill whispered, Admiral, maybe we should retreat. This is beyond anything we have faced. Korv turned sharply. Retreat? You would have us crawl away like cowards? Never, we are Zurons. We fight until victory or death. But even as he spoke, a part of him felt a deep fear he could not admit. The enemy they faced did not use weapons or ships. They used something unseen, something that controlled the very systems the Zuron believed were unbreakable. Minutes passed. The crew continued trying to restart the engines, but nothing changed. Then, just as the countdown reached 0, a wave of invisible force surrounded the entire fleet. The ships began to move, and not by their engines, but by something else. The iron vortex shook as if caught in a storm. What's happening? Rail shouted. They're pulling us, the pilot cried. But there's no tractor beam. Nothing on sensors. Outside, every ship in the fleet was dragged away from Earth by an unknown energy. The stars blurred as they were thrown backward at incredible speed. Within seconds, they were far beyond the solar system. The ship stopped again, now floating near the orbit of Jupiter. The fleet had been moved millions of kilometers in an instant. Not one life had been lost, yet everyone was trembling. The power that had moved them was beyond science or imagination. Korv looked at the navigation screen. We've been displaced. How can any planet do this? No one answered. Silence filled the bridge until Commander Rill finally spoke. Admiral, maybe this is a power we cannot fight. They could have destroyed us, but they didn't. They just pushed us away. That means they don't want war. Korv said nothing. He knew Rill was right. The humans could have ended them, but they chose to spare the fleet. Still, his pride would not allow him to admit defeat. Send a long-range report to the Emperor, he ordered. Tell him everything. The humans have advanced technology capable of disabling our systems and moving entire fleets. We need reinforcements. The communication officers worked quickly using the only system that still worked. The emergency signal line that sent compressed data across deep space. Within minutes, the message was on its way to the Zuron capital. Back on the homeworld, the Emperor sat on his throne as the report arrived. The palace was filled with tension as the message played aloud before the Imperial Council. The voice of Admiral Korv echoed through the hall. Earth has technology beyond anything we have ever seen. They can disable our ships without firing a single shot. They can move us across space with invisible power. We await your orders, the council members murmured among themselves. Some believed Korv was lying to cover up a failure. Others thought it was impossible. The Emperor raised his hand and silence returned. If what he says is true, the Emperor said slowly, then Earth possesses a force that threatens the balance of the galaxy. We cannot allow such a planet to exist freely. But my Emperor, one of the elder advisors, spoke carefully. If they truly hold such power, sending more fleets might lead to disaster. We should study them first. The Emperor frowned. Study them? You sound afraid. The Zuron Empire has never feared anyone. The advisor bowed his head. Fear is not weakness, my Emperor. Sometimes wisdom requires patience. But the Emperor's pride was greater than his caution. He stood up, his dark robes flowing behind him. Prepare the second fleet, double the size of the first. I will not allow some forgotten planet to humiliate us. The order spread through the Empire like a storm. Across dozens of worlds, massive shipyards came to life. New warships, each more powerful than the last, began to assemble. The Empire was preparing for war. Meanwhile, in orbit near Jupiter, Admiral Korv's fleet remained stranded. The engineers had managed to restore partial power, enough to keep life support running. But the main engines and weapons were still locked. They waited in silence, hoping for instructions. Days passed. During that time, strange things began to happen. The crew started receiving faint signals on their personal devices, messages that appeared and vanished before they could read them. Some heard soft whispers through the ship's speakers when no one was transmitting. Others saw flashes of light outside the windows like figures moving across space. At first, they thought it was malfunction or stress. But then one of the ship's data officers found something unusual. Hidden deep in their navigation systems was a code that had not been there before. It was written in human symbols and translated to one line. Your weapons were built by fear. Fear always destroys itself. When Korv read the message, his heart grew heavy. It felt less like a threat and more like a lesson. Yet he refused to believe it. They are mocking us, he said bitterly. They think they can scare us with words. But deep down he was beginning to wonder if the humans were more than just another species. Maybe they were something far older, something that had evolved beyond the limits of normal life. 2 days later, a light appeared in the darkness ahead of the fleet. It was small at first, like a distant star, but it grew larger with every passing moment. The sensors identified no ship, no heat, and no matter, yet it was moving straight toward them. The crew watched in silence. The light stopped just outside the flagship and transformed into a shape, the same glowing figure they had seen before. It looked straight at the Admiral and spoke again. Your Emperor prepares for war, the voice said softly. Tell him that if he continues, his empire will not survive. This is not a threat, it is a fact. Korv tried to speak, but the figure raised its hand and every system on the ship shut down again. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure vanished into the darkness. The fleet floated quietly once more. The warning had been given again, this time not only to the Admiral but to the entire Empire. Korv looked out the window, his face pale. What are they? He whispered. Commander Rill stood beside him. Maybe they are what we will become one day, if we ever learn to stop destroying everything we touch. For the first time in his life, Admiral Korv had no answer. Far across the galaxy, the Zuron Empire moved like a restless storm. After receiving Admiral Korv's report, Emperor Kord had ordered every fleet to prepare for war. The forges of their shipyards glowed red as thousands of engineers worked day and night. The Empire had never been humiliated before, and now pride turned into anger. But deep inside, not all Zurons shared the Emperor's confidence. Many high-ranking officers whispered about the mysterious power of Earth. Some believed the humans had found ancient technology left by extinct races. Others said the humans were not normal beings at all, that they had become something more. Emperor Kord, however, refused to listen. No one can stand against the Zuron Empire, he said firmly during a meeting in the Grand Council Hall. These humans are clever, but we are the masters of the stars. We will crush them and take their secrets. The council bowed, but unease filled their eyes. Back near the solar system, Admiral Korv's damaged fleet was still stranded near Jupiter. They had been waiting for orders from the capital for days. The engineers had restored only basic systems, but engines and weapons remained locked by the strange human code. The ships floated silently, unable to move freely. Inside the iron vortex, Corv sat alone in the observation chamber, staring at the endless stars. The message from the glowing figure still echoed in his mind. Your emperor prepares for war. Tell him that if he continues, his empire will not survive. Those words made him restless. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the calm face of that light figure. It was not angry. It was not proud. It simply spoke as if it knew the future. Commander Reel entered the room quietly. Admiral, he said, we have received a short message from the capital. The Emperor is sending the Second Fleet. It will arrive in 3 standard days. Corv sighed. Of course. He will not stop. Reel hesitated before speaking again. Sir, do you think the humans are trying to protect something? They could have destroyed us, but they did not. They only stopped us. Corv looked at him. Perhaps. But the Emperor will not see it that way. He sees only power and control. He cannot imagine anyone stronger than us. At that moment, the lights in the room flickered again. The same deep hum filled the air. Both officers froze. A faint blue glow appeared in the center of the chamber, forming into the shape of the human hologram once more. Admiral Corv, the voice said calmly, you have not left. Why? Corv stood tall. We cannot move. You have locked our ships. You will be released when you leave this system peacefully, the figure replied. But your emperor prepares to attack again. He has not learned. You must warn him. If he does not stop, his empire will be erased. Corv took a deep breath. You speak as if you know what will happen. What are you, machines? Spirits? Gods? The figure was silent for a moment, then said, we are what comes after fear. Your people build weapons to protect themselves, but those weapons make more fear. We learn to end that cycle. We no longer fight. We control what must not be destroyed. Reel stepped forward, his voice trembling. Are you saying humans became something beyond flesh? Yes, the figure said softly. Your kind still fights for control. We fight for balance. Do not mistake our silence for weakness. Before either officer could respond, the hologram faded into light and vanished again. The hum disappeared, leaving only the soft sound of the ship's systems. Corv sat back slowly. Beyond flesh, he whispered. They have become something we do not understand. 3 days later, the Second Fleet of the Zuron Empire arrived at the edge of the solar system. It was twice the size of Corv's fleet, with newer ships and stronger weapons. The commander of this fleet was Admiral Terran, a man known for his loyalty to the Emperor and his hatred for weakness. When his fleet entered communication range, he sent a message to Corv. Admiral Corv, this is Terran of the Second Fleet. We are here to complete what you could not. The Emperor expects results, Corv responded calmly. Admiral Terran, do not move closer to Earth. These humans are not what they seem. They can disable our ships in seconds. They control technology we cannot resist. Terran laughed. You sound afraid. Maybe you lost your courage in that failed mission. Stand aside and watch how real soldiers win battles. Corv tried again. Terran, this is not a normal enemy. They warned us twice. If you move forward, they will act again. And this time I do not think they will spare us. But Terran ignored him. Enough talk. We will show them the strength of the Zuron Empire. The Second Fleet moved forward toward Earth. Thousands of ships lined up in perfect formation. Their cannons glowed as they prepared to fire. The command centers buzzed with energy. Every soldier believed this would be another easy victory. Then, as the fleet passed Mars, something strange happened. The space around them began to change. Stars flickered and disappeared. The navigation systems could no longer locate the sun. For a moment it seemed like they had entered another dimension. Inside his ship, Terran shouted, Report! What's happening? Admiral, sensors are blind. We cannot detect the solar system anymore, a technician said nervously. Then fire blindly, Terran ordered. We will destroy anything that stands in our way. But the cannons did not fire. Instead, the ships began to shake violently. The air filled with static electricity and all screens turned white. Then the same human voice echoed across every ship in the fleet. You were warned. We will not repeat ourselves. The voice was calm, but it carried a power that filled every heart with fear. Then, one by one, the ships began to vanish. Not explode, not burn, but simply fade into white light. Within seconds, half the fleet was gone, leaving no trace behind. On the iron vortex, Corv and Reel watched in horror from afar. Their sensors picked up massive energy readings, but no explosion. "They erased them," Reel whispered. "Completely erased." When the light faded, only Corv's small disabled fleet remained near Jupiter. The second fleet had vanished without a single shot fired. A transmission came through again, this time addressed directly to Emperor Cord on the Zuron homeworld. It appeared on every royal screen at once. The image showed a view of Earth from space, glowing softly under the sunlight. A human voice spoke slowly. "Emperor of the Zuron Empire, you were warned. We do not wish for war. We do not wish for destruction. But if you bring harm to this world again, we will erase your empire from time itself." Then the signal ended. In the royal palace, Emperor Cord's face turned pale. His advisors whispered in panic. "Erased from time itself?" one said. "What does that mean?" The Emperor slammed his hand on the throne. "They threaten us like children. We are the Zuron Empire." But deep in his heart he knew the truth. No one had ever destroyed an entire fleet without a trace. No power in the galaxy could do that. No weapon, no army, no technology could match what Earth had just done. Meanwhile, Admiral Corv looked at the silent planet below. "They are not fighting us," he said quietly. "They are teaching us a lesson. They are showing us what happens when arrogance blinds us." Commander Reel nodded. "Maybe they want peace, Admiral. Maybe they are protecting something far greater than themselves." Corv looked thoughtful. "Or maybe they are protecting us from ourselves." He turned to his crew. "We will not attack again, not under my command. Send a message to the Emperor. Tell him I refuse to be part of another war that will destroy us all." The crew stared at him in silence. Refusing an Emperor's order was punishable by death, but something in Corv's voice made them believe. They had seen what Earth could do. They knew there was no victory in this battle. For the first time in his life, Admiral Corv defied his empire not out of rebellion but out of wisdom. He had seen the truth, that strength was not about weapons or fear, but about understanding when to stop. Outside, the blue planet continued to turn peacefully in the darkness of space. No weapon, no army, and no empire could touch it. The warning had been given twice, and the galaxy was beginning to realize that this small world called Earth held the power to silence even the mightiest empire. Far away, in the golden halls of the Zuron Empire, Emperor Cord sat silently on his black crystal throne. The council chambers were filled with whispers and fear. The reports from Admiral Corv and the vanished Second Fleet had shaken the foundation of the Empire. Never before had any enemy destroyed entire fleets without firing a single shot. Never before had anyone commanded such power. The Emperor's hands trembled slightly as he leaned forward. "Tell me," he said in a low voice, "what do we know about this planet?" A senior advisor stepped forward, his voice cautious. "Your Majesty, Earth is ancient. Records show that humans have existed for thousands of your years. But they have not appeared in galactic history beyond their solar system. Some believe they destroyed themselves. Others thought they hid from the stars." "Hidden? Or evolved?" another council member asked. "Perhaps their disappearance was not weakness, but strategy." Cord shook his head. "Nonsense. They are primitive. They cannot match us. Yet they destroyed my fleet." "Explain that." A young scientist stepped forward holding a data cube. "Your Majesty, we analyzed the signals and codes that came from Earth. They are unlike anything we have seen. Their technology is not only advanced, it is impossible. It appears they have mastered control over digital, quantum, and energy systems in ways we cannot comprehend." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Impossible? There is no known science that can do that. How could a single planet develop such power?" The scientist continued. "We believe humans achieved a form of evolution different from all species. They merged with technology. They exist both physically and digitally across systems without needing fleets. They are beyond normal life." The council fell silent. Even the most loyal officers struggled to understand. One veteran general finally spoke. "So the humans we saw were only a shadow of what they really are?" "Yes," said the scientist. "We only witnessed a small projection of their full power. Their civilization may exist across many planes, physical, digital, and perhaps more. They are a species that no force can control or conquer." Cord slammed his fist on the throne. "Enough! I am the Emperor! No species, no planet, no power can defy me. I will not allow my empire to be humiliated by humans who refuse to appear in our history. I will strike again. Prepare a new fleet 10 times the size. We will overwhelm Earth with sheer numbers. But deep in his mind, Cord felt something new. Fear. A part of him knew this time would not be like others. The humans were not normal opponents. They had shown mercy when they could have destroyed the first fleet instantly, but if the Emperor attacked again, they might not wait to show mercy a second time. Meanwhile, near the orbit of Jupiter, Admiral Korv's fleet remained stranded. Their ships were partially operational, but the engines and weapons were still locked by the human systems. The Admiral had sent a message to the Emperor, explaining what had happened and begging for restraint, but the Emperor's pride ignored his warning. Korv walked along the bridge of the Iron Vortex, observing his crew. They had worked tirelessly to restore power, yet every attempt had failed. It was as if the humans controlled every system in a way the Zuron could not comprehend. "Sir," Commander Rill said, "the humans are not attacking. They only defend." "Why do they do this? Why warn us instead of destroying us?" Korv looked out the window at the blue planet below. "Because they are beyond revenge. They do not fight for pride or fear. They fight for balance. They are teaching us, teaching the Empire, a lesson we are not ready to understand." At that moment, the same glowing hologram appeared once again in the middle of the bridge. Its light was soft, almost calming. Its voice echoed across the fleet. "Admiral Korv, you see what we are. You have been warned. Your Emperor prepares to strike again. Tell him that if he does, your entire civilization will end. This is not a threat. It is the natural consequence of aggression." Korv swallowed hard. "I will tell him," he said quietly. "But he will not listen." The figure nodded slightly. "Then prepare your people. This will be the final lesson." The hologram faded, leaving only the soft hum of the ship's systems. The crew remained silent, absorbing the reality of what they had just witnessed. Over the next few days, Earth continued its peaceful orbit, showing no signs of hostility. But the humans were not idle. They had monitored the Second Fleet and calculated exactly what would happen if the Emperor continued his aggression. Their warning had been precise, their restraint deliberate. They were a species that understood the consequences of force and the balance of the galaxy. Back in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Cord convened another meeting. His advisors were fearful, but no one dared speak too loudly. Finally, an elder council member took a step forward. "Your Majesty, there is much we do not understand. The humans are not merely a primitive species. Their control over technology, space, and possibly time itself is beyond comprehension. I advise caution." Cord's eyes burned with pride. "Caution? I am the Emperor. I do not take advice from fear. I will command this galaxy and Earth will submit. Prepare the 10th Fleet. This time we will crush them before they can react." Yet even as he spoke, the fear in his heart grew. He had seen what humans could do. He had seen entire fleets vanish without a trace. He had heard their voice, calm and patient, yet full of power. For the first time he wondered, could the humans truly erase his empire? Meanwhile, Korv continued his careful study of Earth. Using their partially restored systems, the fleet tried to analyze the signals and the human codes. What they discovered terrified them further. The humans had created an intelligence that could anticipate actions before they were taken. It was a combination of quantum computation and something more. Perhaps intuition or consciousness beyond what machines and biological minds could achieve. "The humans are planning," Rill said quietly. "Not for war. Not for attack. They are planning to protect themselves and prevent unnecessary destruction. Their intelligence is perfect." Korv nodded slowly. "They are not like any enemy we have ever faced. They are evolved." One night, as Korv gazed at Earth, he realized something else. The humans had given the Empire a choice. Fight and be destroyed, or retreat and live. No species had ever been so merciful and so powerful at the same time. It was not just a warning. It was an invitation to change, to understand a new way of thinking. He turned to Ryle. "We cannot fight them. Not now, not ever, perhaps. They are beyond weapons, beyond strategy. They are a new kind of life, one we cannot challenge." Rill looked uneasy. "Then what do we do?" Korv exhaled. "We wait, we observe, and we learn." Back on Earth, the humans continued their silent vigilance. No signal was wasted, no calculation ignored. They had given the Empire a warning. They had shown restraint. And they had prepared for the moment when the Empire would have to choose, continue its prideful path and face erasure, or step back and learn humility. Korv knew the lesson was not just for the Emperor. It was for every Zuron who had believed in the supremacy of force. Humanity's power was a mirror, showing the Empire what true strength meant: restraint, wisdom, and the courage to act with precision rather than destruction. In the silence of space, the iron vortex and its fleet floated near Jupiter. Outside, Earth turned in quiet peace, blue oceans reflecting light across the void. Inside, Korv and his crew realized something extraordinary. They had seen the power of a species that had transcended fear, that had mastered balance, that had taught even the mightiest empire the meaning of humility. And the galaxy was beginning to understand that Earth was no ordinary planet. The Empire had been warned. Twice. The message was clear. Yet the Emperor's pride still burned. He could not comprehend the humans' mercy. He could not see the wisdom in restraint. But deep inside, even he could not ignore the truth. The humans were not to be underestimated. The Zuron Empire, once unchallenged, now faced a force beyond comprehension. And in the heart of that force was something no one could measure.
No one could fight and no one could control. The power of humanity.
The Zuron Empire was in chaos. After repeated warnings from Earth and the mysterious vanishing of the Second Fleet, the Emperor could no longer ignore the truth. His advisors whispered about impossible power, technology beyond understanding, and intelligence that could predict every move of the Empire. The Emperor, who had never been challenged, now faced a force that defied everything he knew. In the throne room, Emperor Kord sat silently. The golden light from the hall reflected on the black crystal of his throne. His hands rested on the armrest, trembling slightly, though he tried to hide it. He had spent centuries building the greatest empire in the galaxy. Worlds bent before him, fleets obeyed his orders instantly, and no race had ever dared to defy him. Yet here was Earth, a single planet that had reduced his mighty fleets to helpless shadows. Advisors approached cautiously. "Your Majesty, perhaps it is time to reconsider," one said carefully. "Earth is not like other planets. They can destroy us without a single weapon. They can erase fleets and control our systems. Continuing to attack could end the Empire." Kord raised his hand, silencing the room. He had always believed in power, in conquest, in fear, but now he felt a new emotion, respect mixed with fear. "If what you say is true," he said slowly, "then this planet is extraordinary. But we are still the Empire. How can a single world teach an emperor humility?" Before anyone could answer, the palace communication system lit up. A single transmission arrived directly from Earth. The voice was calm, strong, and clear. "Emperor of the Zuron Empire," it said, "we warned you twice. We do not seek war. We do not wish to destroy, but if you bring violence to our world again, your empire will be erased without question. Respect the warning. Live in peace or face the consequence." The room was silent. The message repeated on every screen throughout the Empire. For the first time, no one laughed, no one questioned. Even the Emperor felt the weight of those words. Kord leaned back on his throne. They are merciful," he whispered. "They could have destroyed us instantly. They chose restraint." An advisor stepped forward. "Your Majesty, it is clear that Earth possesses power beyond our understanding. To continue aggression is to risk everything. The only path is surrender, or at least peace." Kord remained quiet, staring at the message. He had always believed in ruling through strength, but now he realized that some strength was greater than fleets, weapons, and fleets combined. This strength was intelligence, restraint, and foresight. Days passed as the Emperor considered his options. Meanwhile, Admiral Korv's fleet near Jupiter remained under the quiet observation of Earth. They were not attacked. The humans had shown no anger, no hatred. They had only demonstrated their power and allowed the Empire to reconsider. Korv walked along the bridge of the iron vortex, watching his crew. They were tired, anxious, and unsure, but hope had returned. He turned to Commander Reel. "We have survived, not by our power but by theirs. We have learned a lesson we could not have imagined. The humans are teaching us what it means to be strong without destroying everything in sight." Reel nodded. "Do you think the Emperor will understand?" Korv shook his head slowly. "I do not know. He is proud, but he will have no choice. The humans have shown what happens when pride meets wisdom." Finally, the Emperor made his decision. He summoned a transmission to be sent across the galaxy, addressed to every world under Zuron rule and to every fleet in the stars. His voice was firm, but his words carried humility. "People of the Empire," he began, "we have faced a force greater than any we have ever known. A planet called Earth has shown power beyond fleets, weapons, or fear. It is clear now that we cannot conquer them. We cannot fight them, and we cannot ignore them. Therefore, I declare peace. Earth will remain free. Its warning must be respected. No Zuran ship or soldier will approach this world again." Across the galaxy, disbelief spread. Some officers murmured in frustration. Some worlds questioned if the Emperor had lost his mind. But even they understood. The humans had the power to erase the Empire completely, and the Emperor's declaration was a wise choice. Back near Jupiter, Corv received the Emperor's orders. "Admiral Corv," the message read, "you are instructed to remain in observation and maintain distance from Earth. No aggression is permitted. Report only on observations, not actions." Corv read the message aloud to his crew. "We are no longer soldiers of war toward Earth. We are witnesses. The Emperor has chosen caution, and we will follow. But remember, this is not weakness. It is learning." As the crew absorbed the news, the hologram of the humans appeared once more on the iron vortex. Its glowing form was soft, calm, and steady. "Admiral Corv," it said, "you have chosen wisely. Teach your people the lesson you have learned here. Power is not only the ability to destroy. True strength lies in wisdom, restraint, and respect." Corv bowed slightly. "Yes, I understand. We will teach them." The hologram faded, leaving only the hum of the ship. Outside, Earth turned peacefully in its orbit, blue and green and full of life, untouched and unafraid. In the following weeks, the Zuran Empire withdrew all fleets from the solar system. Ships returned home, not defeated by weapons, but convinced by wisdom. Entire worlds learned of the humans' power and their message of restraint. The story spread quickly, of a small blue planet that had warned the mightiest empire and survived. The tale was told across stars, inspiring respect, fear, and awe in equal measure. On Earth, the people were unaware of the details of the Empire. They had acted with precision, sending warnings and demonstrating power only when necessary. Their intelligence and planning had protected their world without firing a single weapon. And for humanity, this was normal. They had always prepared for peace as well as for conflict. They had always understood that the galaxy could be dangerous, but it could also be guided by wisdom. Back in the Zuran Empire, the Emperor convened a new council. "Let this be remembered," he said firmly. "The humans are not our enemies, but they are beyond our control. We will respect their warnings, and we will learn from them. Let us rebuild our fleets not for conquest, but for defense, discipline, and understanding." Admiral Corv, now returned to his homeworld, shared his experience with other officers. He spoke of the power of restraint, the intelligence of humans, and the lesson of humility. Soldiers who had once thought only of war now learned that strength could be measured in patience, understanding, and control. And across the galaxy, a single truth became clear. Earth had changed the way the Empire thought. One planet, one warning had transformed centuries of pride into wisdom. No weapon, no fleet, and no threat could match the power of a species that had mastered intelligence, strategy, and mercy. For generations, the story of Earth's single warning spread. Parents told their children about the planet that had spoken to the greatest empire and survived without war. Historians recorded it as the moment when the galaxy learned that true strength was not domination, but understanding. Admiral Corv would often look at the stars and think of Earth. He remembered the calm voice, the glowing figure, and the lesson that had saved his fleet and his people. He knew the humans had not only protected their own world, but they had taught the galaxy a new way to see power. And the Emperor, once proud and unyielding, had learned the greatest lesson of all. That even the strongest empire could bow before wisdom, and even the mightiest ruler could listen to a single warning. From that day forward, the Zuran Empire respected Earth. No fleet would enter its system. No fleet would challenge it. The story of Earth's warning echoed across the stars, inspiring hope for peace and fear for those who dared aggression. The galaxy had seen a new kind of power, not explosive, not destructive, but intelligent, patient, and absolute. And in that power, one small blue planet shone as a symbol of hope, wisdom, and unmatched strength. Earth had spoken once, and the universe had listened. The seventh dawn moved gracefully through the seventh dimension, carrying Ryan and the small group of humans who had joined him from hidden outposts. Each human had trained in secret, learning to focus their minds to interact with the crystal energy that powered the ship. They were still few, but together, their combined intent made the Seventh Dawn a force unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Ryan watched the glowing waves around the ship. Colors shifted like rivers of light, forming patterns that seemed to respond to his thoughts. The seventh dimension had become familiar to him, but he knew that it was still full of dangers. Not all beings in this realm were friendly, and not all paths were safe. Suddenly, a ripple passed through the field, a disturbance of power that made the ship tremble. Ryan focused immediately. "What is it?" one of the humans asked. The ship's voice spoke calmly in his mind. "The Vorn have found a way to enter this realm partially. They are reckless and dangerous, but they have not yet learned to control the flow." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Then we prepare. We can't let them harm anyone else or destroy the flow of this dimension." The Seventh Dawn accelerated, moving through a twisting corridor of light. The waves of energy wrapped around the ship like a protective cocoon, reacting to the thoughts and intentions of Ryan and the others. They were learning to work as one, guiding the ship with their minds, communicating without words. In the distance, shapes appeared, ships unlike anything seen in normal space. They twisted like smoke, constantly shifting, trying to pierce the protective waves of the seventh dimension. The Vorn had brought their full strength, but here, their usual control failed. Ryan raised his hands, imagining a barrier of golden light. The shapes collided with it and shattered, scattering across the dimension. "Again!" he shouted. The team focused, reinforcing the shield, weaving it with layers of thought. The Vorn vessels tried to adapt, but every move they made was countered by human imagination. Suddenly, a massive shadow moved through the energy field, larger and more solid than any of the Vorn ships. It pulsed with raw power, threatening to tear the Seventh Dawn apart. Ryan felt fear, but also determination. He closed his eyes and pictured the ship as part of himself, a living extension of his mind. He reached out through the crystal network, sending waves of calm, precise energy into the shadow. The pulse hesitated, then weakened. The ship's voice whispered, "Your heart guides the crystal. The seventh dimension responds to courage and clarity. Use both." Ryan opened his eyes. With every thought, he pushed the shadow back, fragmenting it until it dissolved entirely. The Vorn ships around it wavered, and their connection to the false path collapsed. The humans cheered softly, but Ryan knew the battle was not over. There were still thousands of lives at risk back in normal space. Earth and all human colonies were under Vorn control, and they had to return to protect them. "Prepare for the crossing," the ship said. "We will return to your dimension, but you must move carefully. The Vorn have learned some fragments of our energy. They may try to follow." Ryan nodded. "Let's go home." The Seventh Dawn accelerated, moving faster than light, twisting through the seventh dimension. Time became a blur. The ship passed through ribbons of energy, each wave pulling them closer to normal space. When they finally emerged, they hovered above the ice of Greenland, far below the surface where the battle had first begun. The scene below was tense. Vorn patrols searched the area, unaware that the humans had returned. Their ships were powerful, but here, the Seventh Dawn had an advantage. Ryan activated the ship's long-range signal. It was not just a beacon, but a pulse of pure energy that reached every human settlement in the system. Every human listening felt a spark of hope, a message that their people were not alone. "Now we fight," Ryan said, turning to the team. The ship glowed with energy as it descended toward the surface. The humans focused their minds, guiding the vessel with intention. The waves of light from the seventh dimension surrounded them, forming shields and weapons that existed because the human mind believed they could. The first Vorn ship approached, its weapons locked on. Ryan extended his thoughts. A pulse of energy struck the Vorn vessel. It twisted violently, then exploded in a flash of light. The others paused, unsure how to respond. Ryan smiled. "We are not weak. We are human, and we fight for freedom." As they moved, other hidden humans joined the fight. Scientists, engineers, and resistance fighters from colonies across the system used the signal to focus their minds. Together, they created energy constructs, shields, barriers, and forms of light that could repel the Vorn. The Empire had never faced a force like this. Commander Thal, observing from his flagship, was furious. "They use thought, not machines. This is impossible." His advisors tried to explain, but he would not listen. The humans had become more than fragile bodies. They were a united force of mind and will. The Seventh Dawn led the charge, moving through the Vorn formation like a wave of light. Ryan's mind connected with the ship, the crystal, and the seventh dimension. Every pulse of energy, every thought of courage strengthened the humans below. The Vorn tried to respond with brute force, but it was no use. Their ships collided, exploded, and scattered. The humans, guided by intention and unity, held firm. Finally, Commander Thal brought his flagship into battle personally. He fired massive energy beams at the Seventh Dawn. The ship tilted, struggling against the power. Ryan focused completely, imagining the beams bending and dissolving. The crystal core responded instantly. Golden light twisted around the Vorn energy, redirecting it back toward their fleet. Ships exploded in bursts of brilliance, leaving only silence behind. The battlefield was quiet for a moment. The humans below, watching from hidden outposts and colonies, realized what had happened. They had won. The Vorn ships retreated in disorder, leaving Earth and its colonies free, for now. Ryan looked at the Seventh Dawn, glowing softly in the fading light. The ship's voice spoke gently. "You have learned courage, focus, and unity. You have shown the strength of your kind. But this is only the beginning." Ryan nodded. "Then we continue. Humanity will never be weak again." The humans on the surface emerged from hiding. They cheered not just for victory, but for hope. For the first time in generations, they knew they were capable of defending themselves against the greatest empire in the galaxy. Mira appeared from a nearby hidden tunnel, smiling as she saw the Seventh Dawn hovering above. "You did it, Ryan," she said, her eyes shining with pride. "The Vorn will think twice before underestimating us again." Ryan shook his head. "We didn't just fight them. We proved what humans can do when we believe in ourselves. This is bigger than any empire. This is who we are." The Seventh Dawn pulsed once, as if agreeing. The crystal core glowed softly, no longer just a machine, but a symbol of hope and unity. Far above, the Vorn Dominion was in chaos. Commander Thal reported their defeat to the Council, but even their advanced knowledge could not undo what had happened. Humans had touched the seventh dimension, and their courage had amplified the crystal's power beyond the Vorn's comprehension. The Supreme Overseer spoke slowly, with an edge of fear. "These humans are no longer weak. They have learned the power of creation. We must be careful." Meanwhile, Ryan and the team prepared the Seventh Dawn for the next step. They had saved Earth and its colonies, but the galaxy was vast, and countless other worlds remained under oppression. The seventh dimension offered not just escape, but the ability to guide, protect, and expand humanity's influence safely and wisely. Ryan looked at the crystal core and whispered, "We will go further. We will protect our people, discover new worlds, and show the galaxy what humanity can do." Mira stood beside him. "And they will never doubt us again. The age of weak humans is over." As the Seventh Dawn lifted from the surface, waves of light from the seventh dimension flowed outward. The humans below watched in awe. This ship, this crystal, and these minds represented the awakening of an entire species. They had been underestimated, mocked, and oppressed, but now humanity had risen. The voice of the Seventh Dawn spoke softly in Ryan's mind. "You are awake. You are human. You are strong. And your story is only beginning." Ryan smiled. "Then let's write it together." Above the snow-covered mountains, the Seventh Dawn vanished into the folds of the seventh dimension. Behind them, the galaxy waited, full of unknown worlds, challenges, and possibilities. And humanity, for the first time in history, would face it not as weak creatures but as a united, courageous, and unstoppable force. The era of human weakness was gone. A new age had begun, an age where imagination, courage, and unity could shape the fate of the stars themselves.